Okay, I think it is recording. Alright, starting in 3, 2. Hi everybody, it's me, Dan. Sorry, I seem a little bit out of it. It is kind of 1:30 in the morning, so yeah, I gotta love night shifts. Anyway, welcome to my kitchen. That's not the main reason why you're here for this video. And by the way, if you hear random noises in the background, let me introduce you over here. We have my lovely wife and my 7th-month-old, Charlotte, who, even though it's 1:30 in the morning, doesn't want to go to bed yet.
Say hi. What's up?
Say, hi, Internet.
Woo. Internet.
So she's going to sit in as I begin this tutorial. So, as the title would suggest, this is a Photoshop tutorial. For those of you who are coming across this without having first seen my blog or anything else, I am a photographer. No official training in photography. My actual training is in graphic design, but I've done, like, part of my schooling involved photo retouching, photo manipulation, things like that. And well, I guess actually, technically speaking, I am a photographer. It's my job. I'm a supervisor for Magic Memories. We do tourist photography, so it's very watered down photography, but I do take pictures for a living. Anyway, on my blog, my Twitter, and all that, I post different photos I've taken, different edits I've done. On my blog, I tend to go into more detail on some of the edits. So what I wanted to start doing is doing video tutorials where you actually watch me do some of this. So that's just so much easier than having to sit there and try to remember, oh yeah, I did this, 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 and this, and this, and take 50,000 screenshots, and just, yeah. So this sums it all up together. So without further ado, we should start on this tutorial. So, minimize that. There we go. Alright, so, in case you don't recognize this, A, I'm using a Mac, and B, I'm using Adobe Photoshop CS6. So, the other tool I have is I have a bamboo tablet, a pen and tablet thing that I use occasionally. Sometimes I'll just use my trackpad since I'm on a MacBook. So, anyway, so looking at this photo here, I have a photo that I took in Washington, D.C. of the Lincoln Memorial. As you can see, if you've seen any of my other posts, you'll know that I got a different shot of this, but as you can see, we have a lot of green all over this area here. I have no idea where that came from, but it's there. We also have all these people here, which, I mean, obviously the people were really there, but for the sake of this photo, and it's kind of one of those, the people kind of draw away from what I was really going for, I think. But, I mean, how often are you going to see the Lincoln Memorial without people there? So, thankfully, that's what Photoshop was made for. So, let me see here. Alrighty. So the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to start working on the people here. So, Charlotte, Daddy's trying to make a Photoshop tutorial. You got to be quiet. Any of you out there with 7th-month-olds know exactly what I'm going through.
Too bad you can't Photoshop them.
Yeah. Thank goodness for my wife, though. Otherwise, I would never get this done. So, thank you, honey. Love you.
Love you too.
Take notes, guys. Anyway, so looking at the people here, we have a couple different options. For those of you familiar with Photoshop, we have the spot healing brush, the clone stamp, as well as the patch tool or any of the other content-aware tools. So, before I get too far ahead of myself, I'm going to go ahead and create a new layer, which I'm going to call Clean Up. And I think I'm going to try the spot healing brush first here. We'll start with this guy here. And I might want to make my brush a little bit smaller. Then I'm just going to paint right over this guy here. Okay, that's not too bad. I think I might make it a little bit bigger here for these guys. For those of you who don't know, I'm using the left and right bracket buttons on the keyboard to make my brush size smaller and larger. Alternatively, you can also come up here directly to your icon thingy. Sorry, like I said, it's 1:30 in the morning, so anyway, yeah, you can adjust size and hardness here. So, alright, then I'm gonna take this and just brush all over these guys here. Probably going too far with this, but that's what they invented Command C for, just in case. Okay, yeah, so as we can see, that did not quite pan out how I wanted it. So, what we're going to do here, I think the clone stamp tool will be our best option. With the clone stamp, it does exactly what it says, it clones. So, you have to select an area. One note here, I have align sample turned off. That's something that I've personally found to be beneficial. Because with the align sample turned on, I'll show you here real quick. If I sample this area here, and then I go to paint down here, hold on, that's not working the way it's supposed to. Oh yeah. Okay, so if I click up here, it'll continue to be that distance from the brush. I was thinking the wrong thing. Alright, but a lot of times when I'm dealing with this kind of stuff, I sample an area, but I'm going to want to use that area in different places. So by turning align sample off, no matter where I click, it's going to keep my same sample area. So I'm going to undo all that. Alright, so for this, I'm going to start by sampling that area. And this one I might actually get out my brush, my pen tool for, because come on. Why is it not working right? That's odd. Okay. Bamboo tablet, you broke Photoshop. Okay, never mind. My tablet is acting up, so I'm just going to unplug it. Okay, back to the trackpad. So, alrighty. So as you can see, I'm just kind of painting in this area, trying to match everything. The beauty of these content-aware tools is, I personally do have a favorite, the spot healing brush. However, like in this case, it doesn't work in every situation. But what's really beautiful is, with the clone stamp tool, obviously it doesn't do that much content-aware fill, because you have to drive it. You're cloning. It's not gonna just pick up on all the details like the spot healing brush does. But what you can do is you use this to paint in your texture. So you paint in exactly what needs to be there. Like, it might not match color-wise, but that's when you go back over with the spot healing brush, which will then blend everything back together. So this time I'm going to pull in from this side. Ooh, that's way off there. Yep. No, pull some of this. Oh, wow, what was I thinking? Okay. There we go. Alright, so as you can see, that's a little bit better, but clearly this area right in here is not looking too good, so I'm just going to do that. Kind of blend some of this out a little bit here. So I'm going to zoom out and see how that looks. So, luckily, the stairs are so far away in this image that we don't need a giant amount of detail, but that looks pretty good. I have a little bit right there still. I'm a tiny bit OCD when it comes to all this, so. Alright. Still looks a little bit odd to me, so I'm just going to kind of... Okay. So now I just have the rest of these people here, which we're going to try and tackle them the same way here. Use what we can, where we can. clearly the spot healing brush is not going to be my friend today. Alrighty. As you can tell, this can kind of be tedious work, so kind of goes into something I want to touch on in my blog post at some point. But just because Photoshop can doesn't mean you should with Photoshop. There's a lot of things that covers, but if you can rearrange things before your photo is actually taken, that is always the best case scenario. Only use things like fixing it in post, like this. Use it only if you have to. Only because, if you're not the one actually doing this, then whoever you're hiring to do it is either going to make a lot of money off of you or they're going to hate you. Because this can get very tedious, and if it's something that you should have fixed on site, then that's just extra annoying, because if you could have fixed it there, then you wouldn't have to spend hours trying to fix it here. In this case, like I said, how often are you going to come across the Lincoln Memorial when people aren't there? So this one, there's not really much choice. So as you can see, I'm just kind of trying to paint in the areas that are missing. Clearly it's looking a little bit odd right now. Sometimes the other hard thing is actually telling what you're looking at when you're zoomed in like this. I have no idea what that actually is, but I'm just going to paint over that. So, I don't like that dark spot there. And when you're using the clone brush, or clone stamp tool in particular, this really comes down to a lot of kind of eyeballing it and a little bit of creativity. Because, like I said, unlike the spot healing brush or content aware, it doesn't automatically detect what is supposed to be there or what it thinks should be there based on everything around it. It's completely relying on your input. So you kind of have to make your best guess about shadows and positioning of things and whether something should be there and shouldn't be there. It's really a little bit of guesswork and a little bit of kind of pretending to be an artist. And you're literally painting in the background where there isn't any background. So another thing to keep in mind with the clone stamp tool is when changing the size of your brush, if you make your brush larger, it's going to make your sample area larger. And so you may end up sampling from areas you're not really meaning to because you made your brush size a little bit too big. So this is one of those cases where I don't know what to do in there. I think I'm just going to do this because it doesn't look right if I leave it alone. So let me see where we're at here. Take a step back. Alright, so that's a step in the right direction. That's before and after. So you can clearly see a lot of the spots there. One thing I'm seeing is I left a lot of shadows in there that shouldn't be there. So, let's see here. Yeah. You notice that that's something I do a lot, where I flip back and forth between before and after, before and after, before and after. Because sometimes I notice that, I'll be looking at one area and I'll see one thing, I'll be looking at a different area, I'll see another thing. So I just like to do it a couple times in a row just to make sure that I I got as much of it as I needed to get. So. Charlotte. Clearly my daughter is getting bored at this point, but... Okay. Almost there. I just want to remove this little bit of shadow, because it doesn't seem to be right. Okay. Almost. Alrighty. At this point, I think I've done all I need to do with the clone stamp. I'm just going to start trying to blend some of it here with the spot healing brush. Let's see what we got Okay. Alright, so I think that should be good. I mean, I have a couple areas that are a little bit... That should be good for now. And you can see some more stuff that's down here in the dark, but I have a better way of taking care of that. Okay, so next thing I'm going to address here, now that I have my cleanup tools all together, I'm going to put that into a group here. I'll call that my background. Alrighty. Now, next thing I'm going to address is that green hue. So, easiest way for me to do that, I'm going to take a hue and saturation layer, and I'm just going to desaturate that a little bit. No, let me see. Well, maybe. Let me see here real quick. Might have a better way to do this. Try curves layer. Switch to the green channel. And down with the green. No. That looks funny. Sorry. Trying to stay focused here. Alright. Think of how I best to do this here. I think we'll go back to the hue and saturation. I'm going to drop saturation down a lot there. Switch. Pass down that. Go to my brush tool. Paint with white. Let's see how that works. There we go. That's the ticket. Alright, so what I did there was I adjusted the hue and saturation layer to actually colorize instead of just address the saturation. And then I tried to match the color of the rest of the memorial there, that kind of yellowish off-white tinge. So that way now that layer is coloring over anything that's green and giving it that same color. So as we can clearly see, that is much better. So, and then, side note, you can actually adjust it to whatever you want it to be. So if you want a psychedelic hot pink Lincoln Memorial, you can do that. Or, like I said, it kind of has that yellowish orange feel to it. So I don't want just the lightness too much because I kind of overshot it there. Alright, I think right there should be good. Now, when you're dealing with the hue and saturation there, though, just a side note here, you noticed I wasn't really being too exact when coloring around the memorial here, and that was simply because, like, the black here, as you can see, even though I have it set on colorize, it doesn't change the black. So the only time that would change is if I adjust the lightness. So, alright, so just as a reminder here, so that's where we started, and that is where we are at now. So, let's see here. Next thing I think I'm going to do, so I'm going to add a little bit more contrast to this here. This time I am going to use a curves adjustment. I'm going to make the darker, and bring more light in. So it adds quite a bit of contrast there. And then I'm going to pull that back a little bit. So let's see what we have here. Alright, now one thing I'm noticing is this pillar here. It's kinda, I feel like it's kind of detracting from my image. So I don't want to remove it, but what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to create another adjustment layer here. I think I'm going to go with curves again. And I'm going to darken this by a lot. Okay. Then I'm going to use Command I to invert that mask. I'm going to paint with white again. I'm just going to paint right over this. Is that might have been a bit too much. See, what I want to do is, the lighter an image is, the more it's going to draw the eye. It's called a visual weight. So I definitely want this to be much brighter than this here. So that's why I made, like, I can already tell it kind of a little bit less obvious now. Kind of like it where it's at there, but I want to adjust that mask a little bit because I kind of overshot some of it here. So. Alrighty, then with that, and I think there's a few more things I could do to this if I really wanted to, but at this point I think that I'd feel confident calling this finished. And so we started here with this very green image full of all those tourists. You know, we used the clone stamp tool and spot healing brush and all that to get rid of those tourists. And we fixed the green, added some contrast, and then made our focus of the photo that much more obvious. And I could do some things like I might want to straighten it, maybe crop it down a little bit yet. But for now I think that's a good start. So bring this back up for you guys. So thanks for sitting in through my first tutorial here. Hopefully I'll get more done for you here soon. If you guys haven't checked it out yet, look me up. I'm on Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest. I have my blog on WordPress. I will have all the descriptions in all the links in the description below. Yeah, thanks for watching, and I hope you learned something. Thanks. Till next time.